Welcome to the Nerd Party.
I'm Darren Moser.
I'm Phillip Gilfus.
I'm Daniel Prue.
And this is City Alpha 3. Hi, and welcome to City Alpha 3, a Star Trek podcast here on the Nerd Party Network. This is Darren Moser signing on with my fellow Strandies, Phillip and Daniel. Gentlemen, well, it's definitely been a Star Trek week. Unfortunately, not of the happy kind. Unfortunately, we have lost several people of the Star Trek community this week. And so this week we will be dedicating our show to both DC Fontana and Renee. We'll be speaking about Renee at a later episode to give him his full due. But unfortunately, both of these wonderful Star Trek individuals have passed. So today I wanted us to look into the impact of DC Fontana. I mean, it was just could we say First Lady of Trek? Or does Michelle hold that title? At least in the behind the scenes capacity, just her things that she contributed not only to the original series, but to the animated series and whatnot. And obviously our homework was to review and contrast some of her writings as well, which we'll get to a little later. But, was DC Fontana kind of a household name to you guys? Did you know any of her work beyond Star Trek, or was it just kind of one of those, you knew she was a foremother of Trek?
I think it's sort of like a charter member, right? If you do the Star Trek Federation flag, one of the circles is
she one of the big stars in the middle?
You can have, yeah. Exactly. I would actually do Gene Kuhn, and then Gene Roddenberry, and then
Bob Justman.
Anyway, yeah, Bob Justman, and then DC Fontana. I feel like you could do that. Then the little ones could be like David Gerald and all that stuff. Yeah, I think
Jeffrey Combs is one of the olive branch leaves on the side.
That guy is
encompassing all of the Federation.
Yeah, I think the thing with DC is that one thing I learned about her more recently was about that she was, in effect, the showrunner of the animated series. Because, I knew about the animated series. I occasionally listen to a podcast about it. But I never knew how much she was involved, and so much as she was driving that thing, even though, her name wasn't on top, but then isn't that indicative of her entire early career? There's a reason she's called DC Fontana, because, if you'd put Dorothy Fontana, nobody would have done it because, people were stupid back then.
Yeah.
And so, I think that was to me the most surprising thing I learned about her in the past, 10 years that I didn't know.
Yeah, no, I was reading through her Wikipedia article, and again, seeing that not only was she a writer and was encouraged to write by Gene Roddenberry, but basically was the showrunner, lead writer for the animated series. And I didn't realize that she met Gene Roddenberry on one of his earlier works. I think it was The Lieutenant.
Yes,
that she started working with him. Yes, I know. It's like, Gene Roddenberry made a war show. I'm shocked. I'm so surprised. Obviously with his experience.
That was actually a police procedural, but he was also a police officer. That's why.
Yeah, but her writing credits are like Dallas, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Reboot, Earth Final Conflict, Transformers, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, $6 Million Man. I'm jumping around in time, you guys. You can probably tell.
She wrote for Reboot?
Yeah, she wrote for Reboot.
That's
one episode.
Awesome. That's amazing.
I saw that, and my appreciation went up a little notch. I'm not going to lie.
That's, what a talent.
Yeah, and I think, it's interesting how a lot of these are in the science fiction genre. But it's interesting how she has that that uniqueness that lets her, do all sorts of different things. So, but I can start with, or would you like to start, Data? What episode did you review for our DC Fontana homework? I'm gonna laugh if we all picked the same episode. Who knows if we did? We didn't share this ahead of time. So, but what episode did you pick?
Sorry, I picked the Enterprise incident.
Okay.
Because, well, of course, it's a Spock episode. It's about Romulans, which is awesome. Yeah, I wanted to do a TOS episode, and they're mostly all good. All of the ones that she penned were really good, solid episodes. So I just picked one because it was kind of my favorite. It had Romulans in it, and it was awesome. And of course, now that I'm thinking, it's so weird. Phillip, you just mentioned that she had to use a pseudonym, of course,
right?
Based on when she was, and I'm like, man, it features a strong female character that just goes by her title, and it's like, oh, hey, maybe there's a little something there. I don't know if it was intentional or that was part of it or whatever, but it's like, man, what? That's awesome. So, the Enterprise incident, which is, by the way, a fantastic episode.
It is. It is.
That's what I picked, and I didn't get to watch the whole thing through, unfortunately. I didn't have enough time, but...
Now, this is the one where they steal the cloaking device, right?
Yep, this is the cloaking device.
Kirk cosplay.
Da-da!
This is probably the best episode of Season 3 of TOS.
That's true, and that's not hard to say, because Season 3...
Hey, now.
Had its rough... Well, she wasn't around for Season 3. I mean, she wrote, but she wasn't a fully on the team during that. So, yeah, it was... Well, I
feel like you can only take so much Gene sometimes.
But, no, and now, here's, like you were saying, you feel with the main character, or not the main character, but with one of the characters kind of going by a title or going by something different to kind of, not disguise who they
Commander.
were, but, yeah, and how that kind of mirrored... a little bit of DC Fontana's, DC-ness, by watching it, again, knowing it's one that she had written, because, there's some other episodes, like, what is it, like if it's Cliff Bowl directed, or, there's certain ones where we can kind of, not tell specifically, but it kind of has the same flavor. Was there anything in the part that you had watched where, it just felt like it definitely came from her. I mean, I would almost think the fact that it's, again, dealing with Romulans and Spock, and, she always seemed to write Spock very well.
Yeah, I think she definitely had a super strong grasp. I mean, she didn't just have a strong grasp of Vulcans. She established a lot of what we know about Vulcans. So, and I think, again, just that... So obviously a very Spock strong episode where he gets to, you get to pull on him a little bit, see a little bit of his rougher edges. But then of course the Romulan commander, I'm going to keep coming back to that. And it's not just because it's a strong female character, although that's a very big part of it, because of course TOS doesn't really have the best track record with how it handles its female characters.
This is true.
You can get that. You can get that sense that it's like this person is an equal. I mean, not even just an equal. She's a superior on her ship, but it's you can just kind of get that sense from it. And I think that definitely would have been lacking had somebody else wrote the episode. I think it would have been more of like a damsel in distress kind of thing, and it's not at all that sort of a situation. So, yeah,
it's interesting with Spock. Some say Spock being her character, as you said, that, to give him... Spock didn't have a lot of romance. He did have some, don't get me wrong. He actually had a handful of romances in TOS. But if this is her character, and then she's creating this other character, like how she would prefer Spock, even though and it's interesting when you watch the episode, if this is what you're looking at it for. Most people watch it for the intrigue, but if you're watching for the romance, how much is Spock faking and how much is he not fake? And so it's a certainly a lot of layers for folks who may not think TOS often has layers.
And just real quick on that same sort of thought wave, I just wish this is one character I kind of wish we got more of in some capacity or another. Like I don't know if she's been addressed in the books or not. I assume probably because everybody has. But,
funny you would mention that because her daughter,
that's right,
Amy Rydell, played the same character in the Star Trek Continues episode To Boldly Go Part 1.
Oh, was that one of... Okay.
So the Star Trek Continues for the fan production, obviously, right. But they are kind of continuing, obviously, that's the name, the original series, and she comes back as the Romulan commander. But it's uncanny because the way they do her makeup and all of that, it looks like for a moment you think, oh yeah, that's that character, and then you remember, wait, this was decades ago. It can't be the same actress, but it was her daughter. I enjoy all of Star Trek Continues.
Now, Daniel,
but
I know
those last two episodes are really good.
The same. I know how you feel about the same actor playing their own offspring. What about an offspring playing their own parent?
Playing the same
Is that allowed?
It feels so infrequent. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm not sure when else.
Because of course,
cue summary judgment. He'll allow it.
Because even of course, I guess Continues also does that with Doohan as well. So
that's true.
Yeah,
it's double dose.
It feels. I will say it feels slightly. What's the word? The word when you give your children
legacy.
Nepotism.
Nepotism.
It feels nepotistic. Right. Is nepotistic?
It is
no,
now.
I don't think it is. But
it
don't
feels like
enable
nepotism.
Him, Phillip.
It feels like nepotism. But if they can do a good job, and they already have a built-in sort of, obviously a sort of looking like their parent, I could let it pass. It's case specific. I'll say that.
Well. I'll go next. My choice was Tomorrow is Yesterday from Season 1, which is where the Enterprise is tossed back in time to 1967. This was kind of the loose backdoor pilot, sort of. Like, we're going to talk about the 70s, 60s. Who knows what they were doing. But it's really interesting, and one of the interesting things I kind of picked up watching it this time was, what was it? Just the whole. It's a really interesting episode because you get a lot of the fish out of water from the present day, Earthman, just being exposed to the Enterprise pretty casually, like, hey, Kirk's like, hey, come walk over here. It's like, forget the Kirk cultural contamination. Let's just show you everything. But it was just somehow all the parts where they were on, where he was on the Enterprise clicked. Yet all the times that our Enterprise crew were on like the planet on Earth in the past, it felt like Backlotopia. I mean, I know it is, but it was just interesting. But overall, a really interesting story. Like this is what I was trying to think. Like, would you make something like that with Discovery? Like, it's so fun and so specific of an idea. I mean, again, yes, I totally know that Star Trek has done this concept many a time. It's like, oh, look, we happen to go back to current day. I'm looking at you, Voyager and Deep Space Nine, sort of, and
Enterprise.
Next Gen Enterprise.
Yeah, every series,
and
I think. And
yeah.
I think it's
I mean, close. Like, Next Gen went to, Mark Twain era.
Well, went to the early mid-21st century, late 21st century.
It's always the mid to late 20th century,
21st.
Isn't it, Phillip? It's always, 21st.
Discovery can't do that now because we would be in the midst of an apocalypse.
Yeah,
so
World War III. Well, wait.
the great climate
they did.
war.
They time traveled the church.
Yeah. The church.
Oh, kinda, yeah.
True.
I mean, that's a reverse travel.
That was pulling it into the future as
Yeah.
opposed to us going into the past. I want
know.
to see Saru in
With a headband?
1990s
with a
garb.
with a do-rag.
No. See, they have to go to 1997, and I want to see everything that Janeway and Tuvok and Paris wore on the Discovery crew. That's the only way I'll accept it.
They've got to
Yeah,
do
it's
it now. They've got to
2019.
come now. 2019.
Yes, you wearing like some big headphones, Beats by Dre or something.
He goes to like Monster Palooza, or some
Horror
sort
convention.
of it's at a convention. Yeah, so it's like, oh yeah, look, that's amazing. You remind me of Doug Jones. Wait, a little too meta there. But no, I like this episode because again, it's just an interesting idea, and maybe it's because the first time that we're doing it because it's the original series. But there's kind of a freshness to it that I didn't feel in the other episodes where we travel back to present day. You know what I mean? But any other thoughts on Tomorrow is Yesterday? Great title. No Latin. Yeah. All right. Well, Philip, what was your choice for your DC Fontana homework?
Sure. And this may be a not controversial, but a semi-controversial choice, and that is Encounter at Farpoint, Star Trek: The Next Generation. She was, I guess one could say, the co-writer with Mr. Jaden Roddenberry on Encounter. Now, and I'm not an expert, but what I can say is that she wrote all the non-Q stuff. Because it was, as everyone remembers from their crazy...
Because I forget, that was the original, right? And then they added Q to double it into the
as
2
we all
hour.
remember from our documentary. The...
So just the space jelly.
Yes.
It was a space jellyfish
Exactly.
episode before.
Yeah, and her concept was...
The trial hadn't begun yet.
Exactly, no saucer separations.
But it would.
In hers. So... I mean, that's a lot of... And, without knowing who wrote what and what wrote who and who what. But, I mean... I don't think it would be far to say that means she did a lot of bulk of that work of creating that next-gen universe. And sure, there was Justman and Roddenberry and blah, 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 blah. Group effort. But it was DC who wrote the first story for next-gen, even though, Gene added and helped. But obviously she gets a lot of credit for creating what may or may not be your favorite pilot in the Star Trek franchise, but certainly... had lasting, things throughout what would become Next Generation that we know and love.
Well, we've talked a lot about Encounter at Farpoint, in the past, and it definitely sets the I mean, whether or not you would say it's the best pilot,
I mean, no one says that.
As it breaks down the
Which
door,
no one would say.
Yeah, no one.
I can defend it, but even I cannot say
But-
it's the best one, obviously.
But it did have to restart
Yeah.
Star Trek. It did have to say, hey, we can come back to this without Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and that was huge.
Well, McCoy was there.
Not in the original, though. Not in the
You're
original.
not wrong, Daniel, but...
Well, and here's the thing too. Like, we're obviously big lovers of TNG here, but the thing is, like, the first 2 seasons, or however you want to count it, the beginning was rough. But there's obviously enough of a good foundation for people to watch it and say, hey, you know what, I'll stick with it. And then we get, I would say season 3 on, it kind of blew up and bloomed into everything we know now. But the beginning was a little rocky, but there's, like, I think, and maybe we don't know enough here to say this, but I would say, if it is the case that she maybe wrote the original draft without Q, she did all the character stuff, which means that she wrote all of, or at least established a lot of the voices of the characters that we seriously grew to love. So maybe it was her choice that Picard didn't like kids. Like, that's super important, or that Data whistles and never whistles again. That sort of stuff.
So maybe if it was the reverse, if Roddenberry had written the first draft and she had done the Q part, would he have been called DC instead of Q.
Or just...
I don't know. Yeah. I was trying to work something, but I can't do it. I know. I was like,
Yeah.
what's the letter between C and D? Dang it. Oh, well.
No.
That's where the Q resides, between the letter of D and C.
DC was a, I don't know what executive producer, she was a higher up on Next Gen as a whole. And I think, as we all know from our documentary, all the TOS people sort of got flushed out after the two, whatever. But anyway, so obviously she did help, nurse TNG in its cradle and to what it would become. So she actually, has, think about that, and I don't know if you have all of her TOS episodes in front of you, Darren, but, she does all the stuff with TOS. She then does all, more or less with TAS. I mean, not necessarily actual writing, but sort of shepherding it all together. And then shepherding TNG in the early stages. And so, I mean, that's why she's one of the big stars in the Star Trek Federation flag.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, it's
She's
and
Dory,
other stuff
at least.
with Gene Roddenberry. Well, and again, like I said, she had done an episode in Earth Final
Babylon
Conflict.
5.
That was also a Gene Roddenberry. Babylon 5. And she did Deep Space Nine.
And a Voyager, too, but I didn't see which episodes. Or which episode of those two series.
In the list I'm looking at, I don't see a Voyager. I see a Star Trek New Voyages, but I don't see a Voyager.
Real quick on this point, she was nominated for a Hugo for Encounter at Farpoint. So that's pretty prestigious.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Hugo.
She also said that Deep Space Nine was her favorite Star Trek.
Boo. Oh, sorry.
Yay!
Well, she wrote that. Well, let's see. I think
she wrote Dax.
Dax. There you go. Just got to it.
From season 1.
Interneted as fast as I could, Daniel. Beat me.
It's actually it's a pretty solid. Yeah, I mean it's a pretty decent early season 1 Deep Space Nine episode. So I feel like, and I went through her biography a bit and like some of her thoughts and stuff. She liked character stuff, and maybe that's probably why Deep Space Nine was her favorite. And I kind of get this sense of like how she felt about Spock and all this sort of stuff. Like I could see that aspect in all of the stuff that I've researched about her. She was big into that aspect.
Yeah,
of it.
no, Darren, I was surprised about your pick. Not that it's not a good pick, but I thought you were going to say Yesteryear, which seemed the obvious choice for you.
Yeah, I just always enjoyed Tomorrow's Yesterday. It's a real fun episode, and it's
also sorry.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying.
But I mean, just because now I'm Googling as well. But Journey to Babel. Journey to Babel. Sorry. But I'm just thinking, how much does Discovery have to thank for DC Fontana? I mean, because she'd be basically, and who knows how writing works in the end, but
maybe she wrote Spock's
we can
shuttle.
Basically, for lack of a better word, thank her for creating the character of Sarek. And so
that's
and then
true.
Spock's backstory and Spock's mother,
I mean, how daunting would that be? You need to write Spock's parents. Like, I don't know where I'd even start.
20 years.
Okay, yes.
Only one of them, though.
Right.
We knew he's half human.
There.
So,
all right, we've got something written down on the whiteboard here.
Pointy ears.
and not pointy ears. All right.
Yeah, and
so we flip a coin. She also did the
So are we saying Amanda calls him pointy ears? Well, I can't see it.
We won't go into their marriage. There's also the Ultimate Computer, which is actually a very interesting episode. I mean, the concept is sort of like you can say it in a sentence or two, but I mean, even though it's a basic concept, is technology going to take over our lives? But I think it's done.
That's the Daystrom one.
That's the M5.
But I think it's
M5
done in such a way that it is sort of a complex thing that does make you think about things.
Who knows? Maybe they had an M5 installed on the Enterprise later, and that's how they could take it over in Star Trek 3.
I'm surprised that she was not in any way involved with the movies, or at least not credited with any involvement with the movies. we see she jumped right from. I mean, she was in TOS, involved in TOS, definitely heavily involved in the animated series, and then comes right in at the beginning of TNG. It's just surprising that she wasn't. I don't know. Maybe like movie credits and stuff are different.
Maybe it's just the difference between TV. I mean, she does a lot of TV writing,
right? Yeah.
I don't actually know if she wrote any film. I don't believe so.
Let me put it to you this way:
Look like it.
unless you can correct me, no woman has ever written a Star Trek movie.
Oh, hey, that's a good point.
And also a bad point.
What's a bad? Well, yeah.
But I mean, I think and sorry, this. Well, you know what? DC would appreciate this tangent.
No.
Let's go on it. So for the Kelvin universe, it's all of JJ's group. Now, whatever. But does JJ's group have any women in it? Okay. So, but that's all Bad Robot, right? So, except for Simon Pegg, but that was that was an emergency situation, which worked out. Don't get me wrong, but that was sort of like who do we got left for Beyond? And then so let's go to the Legacy movie. So Next Gen was all Brandon and Michael and Ronald, right?
And Ron.
Between the four movies, and that was all
pretty much.
Yeah.
And Rick Berman,
I
to an extent, but so that was Rick Berman running that shop. Yeah. I mean, and so then you can criticize because Jerry Taylor, was brought in late. I'm not an expert on all the timeline here, but anyway, she was brought in mid to late Next Gen. And I don't know if that was Rick or Michael Piller that brought her in, but anyway, obviously she helped with DS9 Voyager. But anyway, all this is to say, a dearth of obviously women writers in Star Trek episodes. Now, Discovery's different, of course. We were just talking about movies, so. Yep. But Discovery, I think has obviously a lot of more diversity behind the scenes, thankfully. And of course, with Section 31, that's going to be showrun by a woman. And of course, Discovery now is co-executive produced by a woman as well. So, but anyway, that's. I don't think Dorothy would appreciate at least giving this a moment about women in Star Trek and writers, and certainly the fact that she had to sort of, and I don't remember the history, so I'm sure I'll get this wrong, but like she was Gene's secretary, right, at the beginning of TOS, and then would, slide the scripts with DC Fontana, and then, it's all a game that unfortunately is still being played.
I suspect, by nothing other than some vague hints dropped here and there, and the fact that she had to use a pseudonym for most of her career, that DC Fontana probably had a lot more to do with establishing the Star Trek universe and a lot more to contribute than what's given to her. Because clearly she wasn't already given her fair due, given her fair shake. She can't even put her name on stuff. I imagine that it's the case that maybe a lot more than we think has been done by this woman. So it's a shame. It's a shame that situation even exists. But it's a good point, Philip, that we've got 12 Star Trek movies now. Not one has been written by, or even co-written by a woman, or based on a script that a woman threw away at some point.
I like it. Even if we stole from a woman and didn't use her name, at least that would be something. And sad.
So I looked up, Daniel, the episode she wrote for Reboot was in season 3, and it was called Where No Sprite Has Gone Before. I know, shocked at the title of that one. But
awesome.
As far as I can tell, it doesn't actually have a lot of Star Trek references.
I was just going to say, I'd like to watch it just to see,
Yeah, I don't know. It's the third season, if I recall, was where it starts to kind of...
Don't say get weird, Darren, because the whole thing is weird.
No, it gets... Well, it's where... Remember when Enzo was, force rebooted, and he's, older now?
Oh, it was a teenager, yeah.
No, he's like a man. He's like a full-on man.
Because then there was that
he's
awkward,
Matrix, and then he...
Yeah.
Because that awkward... Was it the end, or just one episode was the awkward one where there's two of them, or whatever? And
Yeah, I don't remember, yeah. But, well, it's... it's always sad when we lose someone from the Star Trek community, be it, a writer, director, actor, and... but this was a great opportunity for us to talk about some of our favorite DC Fontana episodes. And, I mean, like we said from the very beginning, I don't know a Star Trek fan that doesn't know her name. Right. I mean, it's so pivotal, and she's one of the 3 stars.
Exactly.
I know it. She's part of the Federation,
the charter
members. She even survives into the 31st century. She doesn't get scrubbed off with the other stars, but she will be missed, and we're sad for her passing. And Philip, what are we talking about next week?
Yeah, we're going to talk, unfortunately, continue in this vein with Renee, Mr. Odo himself, and his passing. So we're going to be talking about our man Odo next week. And, of course, he popped up occasionally in some other series as well, Star Trek series. Obviously, he had a storied TV career as well. And I think, without going into it right now, to have 3 series that you're known for. I mean, 1 series, okay, 2 series, but 3 series. I mean, MASH, huge, massive, huge is MASH. Benson, not as huge, but still very well known for the period. And then Star Trek Deep Space Nine, almost a decade and a half later. And so to have all those.
I thought in MASH he was only in the film.
No, he was definitely in the TV show, because I remember.
Oh, he was in the TV show? Okay. Mm-hmm. It's been a while since I've watched that, so I will defer to your judgment. Yeah. But I know he played Father Mulcahy in the film. Mm-hmm. So, but he obviously got a different role.
Maybe my memory's playing tricks on me.
No, I do vaguely remember him being in the series as well. It's like some MP or some, general came into town or something. But, and, who's watching The Little Mermaid?
Yes. We played the chef.
Up. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Who's, but no, that'll be fun talking about Odo. And as soon as I'd heard, I pulled up some screenshots from What We Leave Behind and the scene where he's walking off into the link, because I'm like, that's today. That's how he wants to be remembered.
Yeah. And then of course we also got that. Go ahead, sorry.
No, and he'll be missed.
Yeah, I was just going to say we unfortunately also got that Marina Sirtis tweeted that her husband passed away. So obviously that's another Star Trek loss, and so
that was all within like a week, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, and it was only a month or so ago. It felt like where we lost Aaron Eisenberg.
Yeah. It's 2019 has not been kind.
Right. Let's just get over that hump to 20. That's we're almost there.
So everyone during the holidays, appreciate all your Star Trek and Star Trek people, because they're not going to be here forever. So take the time that you have off to keep loving your Star Trek.
So Daniel, if someone wanted to talk to you about pointy ears and not pointy ears, where would they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at @OneUpDan. That's the number 1, not the word. As in, it's best to have 1 pointy ear and 1 non-pointy ear, which is what Spock should have had if he was a real halfling.
Oh man, like a left and a right.
That's funny.
Wow. I just, I think they were trying to take him seriously, Daniel, and I think that would have just shoved that out the air.
Oh man, that would have been such a inappropriate conversation to have, and like the producers were like, but how will viewers know that he's half human? And like, it's going to be the character. But should he look half? No.
So is it the eyebrow side has the pointy ear, or the non-eyebrow side? Wow, that's a good one. And Philip, if someone wanted to talk to you about the M6 Ultimate Computer, where would they find you?
The Ultimate Computer in-game. They can find me on Twitter at NC Public Servant.
And if someone wanted to talk to me about traveling to just before the moon landing with the 3 astronauts, we can find me on Twitter, Twitch, or Instagram under username Dr. Sci-Fi, DRSCIFI. I'm Darren Moser.
I'm Philip Gilfus.
I'm Daniel Prue.
Stranded here on City Alpha 3.